Welcome to Strength Coach TV. I'm Anthony Renna. This is the show where we go into some of the best facilities in the country and we take a tour and sit down and talk some shop. Today, I go to actually my business partner, Mike Boyle. We have strengthcoach.com together, and we've been doing the Strength Coach podcast for 10 years together. Mike was actually, this is me revisiting Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. He was one of the first episodes we shot when we did the first iteration, so you can go back and check that out. So this is really a good continuation because Mike's expanded so much since that time. So we actually went in on St. Patty's Day. You can hear some St. Patty's music in the background. We did a tour. We really didn't tour the front part because we've already done that. We just kind of went to the places where Mike's expanded, found out what's happening or how he did it. And then when we sit down, we're going to talk about some of the things that went into deciding to expand and some of the challenges that he faces. So let's go up to Woburn, Mass. to Mike Boyle, Strength and Conditioning. Hey guys, welcome to Strength Coach TV. I am in Woburn, Massachusetts with Mike Boyle at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. Mike, thanks for doing this.
Always a pleasure for you. You know I'd do anything for you.
There you go. All right, so behind us, we've already done this part of it. This is the main part of the facility. How many square foot when you opened in 2011?
This room, it basically was 8,000 square feet of working space. So if we think, working space, this, what you see, sorry, Kristen, was 8,000 square feet. There's about 2,000 square feet, bathrooms, offices, that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, it was 8,000.
Yeah, we were here right in the beginning, so that was 2011, right?
Which shocked me. I went back and actually watched that episode I had almost the same sweatshirt on if anybody goes back and looks, so realize.
How much staff now? How many staff are roughly?
Between the two facilities, there's probably about 30 staff and interns at any given time. There's probably 20 staff members, and I would be like, I don't know, 15, I think. 15 or 16 people are full-time.
Okay. Now, the expansion, we're going to go both ways when we do the tour. So how much extra space? Basically, more than doubled.
More than doubled. So we were at 10,000 total, 8,000 working. Now we're at, I think, 22,500 and we haven't really added non-working space. We did add the movement as medicine space, so we're probably at like 18,000 working, so a little bit more than double the amount of workspace.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go. We'll go check out those spaces, and then we'll sit down. We'll ask you some questions about the expansion.
Perfect. Okay, so you get to follow us. Basically, you'll see the first piece of space that we added. So if we walk over this way, we added we added 5,000 square feet of space that we pay rent on, and we can kind of stroll over. But of that 5,000, about half we rented. So when you get in this room, you'll see half of it is actually a shooting area for ice hockey. Initially, it was a goaltending area. Now it's become a shooting area, and we've got a great shooting coach, Glenn Tucker. It's called Shoot to Score. The shot doctor is in there, so that's pretty awesome. And
like, that wasn't something you guys wanted to get together, right?
Right, yeah. It's really just a rental situation, but it was somebody that we wanted to partner with that we felt kind of similar thought process mission to what we're doing. So yes, one of the things we want to do is not be associated with anybody who's really not kind of consistent with our whole values and system. And this guy's the best at what he does. Really in the country, he's got guys that come in from literally all over the United States to shoot with him. He's got guys like Jack Eichel who shoot regularly, like a lot of anybody local who's good. Charlie Coyle that's playing for Minnesota shoots with him. He's got a lot of really good local clients, Bergeron, Chara. But we don't talk about hockey. But the point was here, this space was empty for about, I think, the first year that we had the business. And we ended up in a situation where we were worried that someone was going to take the space and then we were going to need more space. Initially, we were worried about having, a bigger space or, a different space and a little bit higher rent. Then we said, let's go for it. Let's grab this space. We'll rent half of it out. So we made this area into kind of our cardiovascular area. If you look, we actually recessed the slide boards into the floor. So we came in and we cut out the turf so they don't move, which was a big improvement for us. And obviously we fit our assault bikes in and the air dynos, whatever we had left, woodway treadmills, all that stuff. So we have a room, and we still have a little bit of extra space for whatever. Like if we need another place to warm up, if we need a place to, to do mobility work, whatever it is, we have this space so we can use it. Then and we can probably walk back across. Actually 5 years ago, which is amazing to me, the space next door to us, which was initially the space we wanted because it had the all concrete block wall that would have been better, came available. The company that was in there actually outgrew the space. So they left, and in what ended up being a really good situation, they had office space in front. And Movement of Medicine, that was sort of the birth of Movement of Medicine with Kevin and Brendan. They said, hey, can we take this space, use the offices as treatment rooms, use this sort of as a general waiting area. So we were able to create space for Movement as Medicine, and then basically create a really big turf area. So if you kind of follow us over, you can see that.
So yeah, like this behind you used to be the med ball area,
exactly,
right?
This was the med ball area. We put in, what performed better was then selling, I think, as the Victory Rack system is what they were calling sort of their multi-purpose rack type of setup. And we put, actually, if you look, this is kind of cool. These are plastic mirrors, so we weren't worried about people potentially hitting them with a med ball, because people were used to throwing here. I said, if we ever put glass here, we're going to be in trouble. And these, if you look, if you can see, it's pretty good when you're close, but they're not very good. The further away you get, the more distorted you get. Okay. So they only work, but they work perfect when we're cleaning, because we can clean right out of the racks here, especially if we've got groups of younger kids. So it gave us some more kind of multi-use space, which is what we always need. Yep. We like to be as multiple as we can be. We don't want to dedicate really any particular space to sort of like one piece of equipment or one activity, because it just doesn't work for our model. So when you look at this next piece of space, you'll basically see, I think it's 8,000 square feet of turf. And we've actually got a field trip group in here today from a local high school, which is kind of cool. And then we've got our normal adult group. But you can see that space that's squared off up in the corner is where Movement of Medicine is. There's a couple bathrooms in there. There's 3 treatment rooms and then some office space for them and a small waiting area. So there's probably, I think, I don't know, 1,500 square feet or something like that up in that front area. Here we simply turfed all this. We actually put 2 batting cages in down that end that we rent to a friend of ours, again, a really good hitting coach. So we've stayed with the same theme. We're going to partner with really good people who are good at what they do. Yep. So we're not going to have, I hate to say it, but we're not going to have clowns in here that we don't like and or respect. So John Pandolfo does hitting in here, and he's had 3 daughters that went to Boston College on scholarships for softball and all trained here as athletes. So that's been a really good situation for us. We also netted off the ceiling and netted it all the way around so we can pull it and close it. And we actually use this space at night. We rent it. So we rent it a lot of times from 7 to 10 at night for soccer. So we rent it to a local soccer group. That helps us defray the cost, because one of the things that happened here was that we doubled our square footage. And when you double the square footage, now you're in a situation where you double the rent. So just to help us sort of offset the rent, Saturday afternoon, Sunday all day really we'll rent it out. Saturday afternoon after 11 we'll rent it out, and night 7 to 10 we'll rent it out, because people are always looking for turf space, particularly for like little kid kind of soccer. We don't do, there's no birthday parties, there's none of that stuff. It's strictly rentals for local communities that are looking for space.
Now, do you have somebody on staff just kind of making sure?
Yeah, we have somebody who just sort of babysits the space. We can seal these doors off so they can't get in here, but yeah, we'd like to have somebody around to make sure that, but we're still having some problems in terms of gum and things that we didn't. Yeah. But it makes too much sense to do to not do. I guess that's the easiest way to look at it.
Yeah. All right. So with Movement as Medicine, we're gonna film them eventually. But are they paying rent?
They pay rent. Yep, okay. They do. They have it's really a nominal rent, and then what they do is they end up in a situation where their personal training clients become our clients. So they're allowed to do, massage work, their kind of Movement as Medicine thing. But if somebody wants to be consistently personal trained, that's sort of our agreement with them. Then they become a Mike Boyle strength and conditioning client. Yep. But Kevin or Marco or Nicole will still train them, but it's sort of like the umbrella switches. They now come under our umbrella versus under their umbrella.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go sit down and we'll get a couple of...
Let's go.
All right, Coach, let's talk a little bit about the economics of the expansion. I mean, like you said, now it's become almost like a business within a business, right? You had to rent out to the hockey guys, you had to rent out to the soccer guys. Was that something that you really anticipated right away, or was it something kind of like, oh man, we gotta add some revenue here.
Initially, when we took the initial 5,000 square feet on that side, we had anticipated that half of it would be hockey space.
Okay.
Yes, so that we did. When we took the other side, we did not anticipate the movement as medicine thing. We did anticipate that we might want to do rentals, which is why we netted it off. We didn't know that we would, but we said let's spend the money for the netting now and get the ceiling netted and all that stuff so we don't have light and sprinkler problems and fan problems and all that stuff. And then the batting cage, same idea. We had a friend, as I said, John Pandolfo, who's a great hitting coach, who was basically renting winter space and putting his own cages up just to teach for the winter and then basically taking it down. So he'd rent in a local industrial park where they had empty space. So we said, hey, we can work out a deal with John in the winter, because where we really need that space in the summer.
Okay.
So
yeah.
When you look at that, you think we need it now all the time because we're so busy. But initially we were thinking, hey, we need it in the summer. And if we can help defray the cost, because when you said the economics, you take that size space, the rent figure doubles. Now rent is obviously a significant portion of what our general expenses are.
Yeah.
But when we looked at it, the rent was going to effectively double, but that only accounted for, at that time, 10% of our revenue, maybe even a little less. So one of the things that I said to Bobby when we looked at it was that if we double our space and can't increase our revenue by more than 10%, we're not very good at what we're doing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We've got twice as much space, we can fit twice as many people in here, but we can't get the revenue to go up 20% and make it pay for itself. So that was sort of the way we went into it. But it is a little bit daunting. The bad part about this business now, as big as it is, as many employees as it is, when you look at the economics of what we need to make per month just to stay open, it's funny because I don't really look at that stuff because Bobby looks and it makes him nervous. I just don't look because I don't like to think about, wow, we need to do
just keep going
80,000 a month or something like that to stay open.
Yeah.
That's a little bit intimidating when you start thinking about it in that way. So I don't.
When you look at it though, is it big enough? I mean, how big is big?
Yeah, it is big enough. I think it's big enough now in terms of, but we have space outside. We turfed an area outside after you left. We did. Yeah. And maybe we can go out and take a look at that too. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then we put rubber down, which you can't see. Actually, you probably won't be able to see either because of the snow.
Yeah.
But there's a couple thousand square feet outside now that we use in the summer too. So I think in the summer, you're never big enough. And I love this idea of sort of being able to expand and contract and find ways to defray the cost of the extra space. I think that's what, when you look at like the velocity model, I think that's what hurt the velocities, is that they built these huge facilities and then they didn't have adult business, they didn't have normal fitness. So they're trying to pay the rent on this massive facility between 3 and 9.
Yeah.
It's really not easy to do. We're open now, I think I figured it out the other day, if we open 5, 12, we're open 17 hours a day.
Wow. That's a lot.
No, 16. 16 hours a day with people in here.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a much more intelligent business in the sense when we started, we were open about 6 hours a day with people in here.
Yeah.
So you think about sort of how that business since 97 when we first opened in our first location, how the business has morphed from kind of an athlete-only model of 6 hours a day to a general fitness, adult fitness, personal training, athlete model where now you've got basically 16 hours a day of time.
Has doubling the size, have you really had to kind of focus to more on that general pop? Because we've been talking to a lot of people, and it's the same thing. A lot of people do start out with kind of just the athletes and then realize, wow, all these people are out there that can pay my rent. I mean, have you had
For us, it was the opposite in terms of they just kept coming and they keep coming.
Yeah.
And the reality is we didn't try to focus on them, but the influx has been incredible. It's like the one thing that I will say positively about CrossFit, and I don't say many positive things, is that it created a really large awareness of this idea of functional training and interval training and all that stuff in an adult population.
Yes.
I don't think that population was tuned into this type of working out, at least not en masse.
Yeah.
Now they are. And the good thing is a lot of them are looking for safer alternatives. They're looking for places where they can do things that are going to get them sort of up on their feet and moving and have them feeling more athletic, but things that maybe aren't going to be in the kind of dangerous category.
Yeah. Anything that you kind of look at this whole thing in this facility and say, I wish we would have done this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you look out, and you can't really see, but if you look out over our office space here, I would have put a mezzanine in. I would have doubled. That was going to cost us about $60,000 at that time to put steel beams in and a staircase, because the build out, when we built out this space, they built the office space the way that we wanted. And I think we talked about it in the Strength Coach TV episode. They wanted to build out across the front, and I wanted them to build out down the side because I wanted this big rectangular box that we have.
Yeah.
And so we built down the side, but we talked about a mezzanine, similar to Pat Menocchi's place. I don't know if you've ever been to La Palestra, but La Palestra has like a kind of a double layer going around. I think it was actually an old track or something that they converted.
Yeah, that's what it looks like,
but we should have done that. That's the one thing. I should have spent that money early on to have twice as much office space, because the one thing we don't have is enough staff space. And we don't have even, our locker rooms are small, our bathrooms are small, our staff area is small. And I've always said, focus on the areas where you make money, which is true. Yeah. But we could have doubled, we could have taken that area, the same amount of square footage, and made it into twice as much usable square footage by spending a little bit more money in the early going. I probably would have done that. If you asked me to do it over again, I would have done that.
Yeah, that's just a capital investment, and once you're kind of make up that money, you're fine. It's not added to the rent.
And then the other thing was obviously the half rack with connectors. That was something that we replaced later. Inlaid platforms we replaced later. There were some things we had. Back in probably whenever we came in here.
At the time?
I don't think they were doing them then. No. So those are things that maybe I guess I can't say at the time because the option wasn't there. But those are things that I'd look at with people now and say, because I've always said I don't like half racks. But the truth is, now that they have the connectors, I do like half racks.
Okay.
So there's sort of a.
And it has this has obviously helped with logistics. Like you have the cardio all in the one room, and now you have that you can throw the med balls in the other rooms. So.
Oh yeah, and that's the good thing. The logistics always get better. We're always working. That's the one thing. We're always tinkering, trying to make the logistics better, trying to figure out, because I always say to people, it's really making the factory floor better, in terms of we want to process, because the way this business really works, how many people can we process? How many adults can we get in and out of here? How many kids can we get in and out of here? And do a really good, high quality job, because that's the difference. Yeah, we could be little boutique-y and have 6,000 square feet, but we've got 22,000, so.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Well, Coach, thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking the time and sharing some of those things.
No problem. My pleasure.